Hi, this is Miranda Johnson, and I will be talking all about my school library advocacy project. To begin, library positions are impactful. Studies and data really support the fact that the endorsement of school librarians, the support of school librarians, have a direct positive impact on reading scores. So it's very important that schools have them. But there's a war on them. Librarians are fighting for their lives. Not literally, but their positions, I should say. Next, the whole objective of this presentation is to highlight school librarian data and discuss steps on how to advocate for librarians. Beginning on a national level, there is 90,400 public and private schools in the United States. 91% of those have school libraries, and only 61% have full-time librarians. This is slowly increasing as the year has gone by. Recently in Houston, we had a huge shift in that amount. So, first thing, loss of librarians, we know that. Next, censorship is on the rise. There has been a 65% increase from 2022 to 2023. In 2023, there were 4,240 titles that were challenged. So a huge shift. Next, school librarians. They love their job. If you just look at the data that was collected, there is 81% of school librarians would choose it again. 86% of school librarians would say you should do this to someone who is trying to enter college. As a whole, they're very, very satisfied, which leads to what the data tells us. One, there's not enough librarians to support students, and that can be detrimental to students across the nation. We're constantly trying to see how students line up against the world, and the lack of librarians can cause problems in that aspect. Next, budget cuts are having a negative impact on students' education due to lack of library staff. That goes directly in what I was just speaking on. Censorship is up, which is creating more fires for librarians to put out. They're having to defend their rights more. Texas has had a law that put in where censorship is happening more. Florida, many states across the United States are seeing censorship increasing. Next, librarians are willing to fight. They like their jobs. They want their jobs to continue. They are supporting. They're advocating for their roles. So that tells us that with that continued support and that continued advocacy, that they're willing to do it until they see changes. Jumping on a more local level, we know that districts are looking for ways to cut back. Nobody has money, especially since the COVID money has gone away. Districts have less money than ever. The first thing is HISD began to cut back on library positions in 2023. That's what my first infographic over here is about. All the red stars are all the school districts that have a librarian per campus, so 1-to-1 ratio. The two yellow stars are where there's a librarian at every campus except for one. So, for instance, there'd be one high school there would be two high schools that share one librarian. And as you can see, that's only on 2 total schools. Next, it is in HISD, the big metroplex here in the middle. There are no libraries on 101 traditional campuses. So just in this next picture right here is from early 2024. 130 school libraries were cut for the 2023-2024 school year. Even more were cut at the end of the 24 school year, going into next school year. Next, Spring Branch cut all library positions for the 24-25 school year. Parallel ISD's superintendent attempted to cut back on high school library positions. It ended up not happening because of community support. Lastly, House Bill 900 came into effect in January 2024, not 23, but 24, and that has now caused librarians to have to advocate for the books they buy. So I can't just make a list of books and say that this is it. I have to be able to advocate for any book that falls outside of my 7 through 8, or on an elementary sector, K through 5, whatever your grades that you teach, you are a librarian for, you have to be able to argue that those books are supporting that age group. And there's nothing in content that is outside that age group that's not appropriate for them. So what does this tell us? One, the transitions of libraries in HIC to team or Zoom centers or detention centers has created concerns about student loss and critical thinking and informational literacy. You just go on social media. So many librarians are fighting for why it's wrong. I was at a conference recently for librarians, and there are HIST librarians there, and they were going on and on about all the steps they're taking, all the advocacy they're doing, how they even, that there was the teacher of the year and there was the principal of the year, and no one was recognizing librarians. So they started a library for the year, and then HIST was like, oh, we should probably pick that up. So they actually took over that. But it was through them stepping out of their comfort zone and saying something needs to be done that made HIC begin to take them just a tad bit more seriously. Next, Spring Branch's ISD elimination library positions or elimination of library positions may impact student access to resources. It's going to, but that's just a concern at this point because it could, because we haven't seen it yet. They're really, we're going to see the shift as the following 24-25 school year comes in. Also, there's also that decline in research skills. Next, positions can be kept. Pearland librarians fought with their community. They told the superintendent no, and they gave data to back it up. Those positions were kept. So it is possible. Next, the Texas librarians face censorship with the House Bill 900 coming into effect. It's causing a strain on librarians. We're going to have to fight for students' intellectual freedom, their access to diverse material. We are not as bad as Florida yet, but we are going in that direction where we have to fight, and that's going to cause more hardship on our job, but librarians are willing to do it. Going towards my school specifically, San Jac Intermediate, there is, out of roughly 860 kids, there is 4% African American, 0.4 Asian Pacific Islander, 6% Caucasian, 89% Hispanic, no Native American students, and then there's 0.6 multiracial students. So that's the demographics of my school. But on the other side, of those 860 some odd students, there's a 72% chance of dropping out, which is higher than the Pasadena's general rate of 70%. Next, 91% are low socioeconomic, which is higher by quite a bit than Pasadena's, which is 80%. Lastly, 100% of the campus is free and reduced lunch. So what does this mean? Well, first, students need support building information literacy skills. That's anyone across the board, but that definitely comes into play when you have less resources, less money. These students have a higher need. So SJI, San Jac Intermediate, SJI Library provides hands-on learning opportunities through makerspace, chaperone, experiential learning field trips. So they're going to places like NASA and they're trying some STEM-based activities out. They're going to colleges and they're talking with professors. They're doing all these hands-on experiences, plus makerspace. I'm really excited to pick that up this year. We're going to do more things that will build on students' interest. So next, SJI librarians support nonfiction literary skills by rearranging the library to make it ease of access. Meaning, so previously our librarian was Dewey, now it is done by genre and kind of kept Dewey. So instead of all the biographies being together, biographies that go with World War I would be in the World War I section, and the last librarian saw a huge increase of students being able to access that. So they're gaining those literacy skills. Next, the SJI librarian promoted digital literacy. She gave lessons on it, really encouraged students not to plagiarize by giving those lessons, supporting teachers and staff with students, helping students understand how to cite their sources. Another thing students need the community to stay in school. That huge percentage, that 72%, is huge. And at a 7th, 8th grade level, we're right on the cusp of them deciding to drop out. So students need that community to stay in school. SJI Library offers before school and after school clubs to give students community. It gives them a place to be. It gives them a place to show up. Because oftentimes if students do not attend the day, they cannot attend other things such as before and after school clubs. Next, SJI Library encourages students to come to the library through weekly challenges. They're giving them that community, even if it's just, oh, hey, I got a piece of candy and I walked to the library. It's still giving them an incentive to come into the library, build that community. Lastly, students are mostly from low-income families. They need those mentorships. Their parents work multiple jobs. They need more people rooting for them. So the SJI Library, as a whole, the school began one as a whole, but then the library really took it over. There's a mentorship program during lunch. So a librarian's impact, just as a whole, information literacy. A librarian makes sure that students learn how to locate that information, just like how she put the nonfiction in a specific way. Develop skills to become lifelong learners, critically evaluate resources, learn how to synthesize information. So it's being able to find the information, take the information, and make it into something greater. When it comes to teaching and learning, librarians collaborate with teachers. There's a partnership in instruction, meaning that not only are they creating lessons, but they're teaching those lessons together. They're evaluating data together. Lastly, librarians are really helping teachers find a wider range of resources, finding more up-to-date resources, really helping them push the envelope, not just to make their lesson look shiny and exciting, but to actually be impactful. For the students, they're giving learners a place to have a safe place for trial and error. So many places in education, we just don't have that anymore, thanks to the standardized test. A library is a great place for that trial and error. Lastly, students still need a place to be able to learn about things that excite them. So helping them develop those interests, giving them new ideas for makerspace, just pushing them into learning more about content they're interested in. Emerging technology. Librarians show how to utilize both digital and physical resources such as books, reference materials, podcasts, 3D printers, VR, etc. I'm really excited to show my students how to use some of the new Wonder books that I plan to bring in, use the Cricut, all of those things. Next, I want to show students, librarians show students how to use technology effective to heighten scores, going back to the fact that technology is not meant just to make something look shiny and pretty, it's to make scores go up. So, librarians are having a huge impact. And some of those are through using, librarians are able to show them these resources. One would be Slay School, the other would be Active Learning Labs, all one word. Slay School is an AI tool that converts notes, PowerPoints, flashcards, and quizzes. So it allows students to go have a more direct approach from learning to studying. It allows for a tailored education approach, covers materials on hand, utilizes modern technology to, like I said, more effectively study. So Slay School is a great resource from free tech resources that librarians can give to teachers, that they can give to their students. Next, Active Learning Labs. It's a website that creates worksheets that are interactive, automatic grades, give direct feedback. That is something that teachers would love because the grading and the time it takes to create things. But it also gives real-time feedback, which benefits both the teacher and the student because the teacher can automatically see how a student needs support and the student knows exactly how they did. Next, there's a lot of drop-down and moving things, all these skills that students have to have for STAR now. So this the Active Learning Labs is a great resources to really support students having STAR skills. So librarian action steps. What can librarians do to keep their libraries on the map? One, they can use data to tell the positive impacts of their program. They can tell about successful programs taken on by the library, how they've impacted students, how they've grown the community. Money is always an issue, so applying for grants, organizing fundraisers, creating partnerships with local community members. Lastly, social media is king, so using social media to spread awareness and gain followers. Now, what can the community do? The community can, obviously, get their voice out there. They can attend school board meetings, speak with school administration. They can volunteer at their school library. The school librarian will always love getting those volunteers in. And then they can really get a hands-on approach, a real eagle's eye of what's going on in the library. Next, speak with your local representative. That will really help. Lastly, reach out to your school librarian, not just to volunteer, but just to ask programs, getting involved. I cited all my sources, but this project gave me a whole bigger idea of how to advocate to my program this upcoming year.